Yes. I must confess that I was rather shocked to hear the analysis so well-founded about the situation in Europe and the crisis of the unity of Europe itself, of the existence of Europe itself. I don't know the subject deep enough, so I feel like a fish in a room water. But anyhow, it's so important, I will dare to say a few words about it. If I understand it correctly, I come moreover to the conclusion that what is impossible is the model on which this Europe has been constructed. It is for me difficult to understand and accept the idea that since that model is not functioning and is bringing this tremendous general crisis, not only economic, therefore there are no options but to the non-existence of this union itself. So the question essentially is, there can be other models, and can that be changed? That's for me the key question seen from outside Europe, but much interested in Europe because I'm interested in the world, and because I have also many links to many countries in Europe with friends and part of my personal life linked to these countries. François was, remember, also the basis of neoliberalism. I should just point it out that the thinking fathers of neoliberalism constructed a philosophical system, not only an economic system. It's a philosophical system about society, about morals, about values, about everything. They were absolutely aware that this mischief their proposal will bring to a society. And the answer was, that's inevitable, that has to be so, a part of society has to suffer, and cannot profit and receive the goods of society. It was mentioned in education. I was working in UNESCO the very last year where some of these neoliberal ideas of education, about education, were getting inside UNESCO through the World Bank, even for Latin America. And the idea was the same. And even many functionaries in UNESCO were ready to accept that. I remember how it was impossible in the discussion that we could be heard. There was nothing about it. That idea was getting imposed and getting forward. Chile today is still suffering for this neoliberal system about education. Now, I cannot forget history. I know this kind of crisis, which is an enormous crisis, not only economic, could bring conditions for Lenin or could bring conditions for Hitler. That is very clear. So the task is, can this crisis, and this crisis not only the economic, but all this society crisis, can be really the moment, can really we expect, and there is a possibility that the people of Europe will really react. I remember having been talking to many friends from Europe this last month, and I remember very clearly I said, it has to be building a Europe of the people, l'Europe des peuples. How can we renounce to the idea of l'Europe des peuples? And of course, this is not my field. I am not a specialist. But I think that has to be done. I think that can be done. Or at least has to be fight for it. At least the struggle for it. And what worries me most is that we don't see enough the people raising against, using this brilliant, in fact, it is the opportunity to change that Europe that is doing harm to Europe and the whole world. But we don't know whether that is coming or not. And a very short final word, we Latin Americans have to learn from this experience. We used to inspire ourselves so much about Europe. It's sometimes all right. I have nothing against learning from other experiences in the world. But please, many of our politicians think that Europe is a model. look, they succeeded in creating a unity. Look what they have done. And this should be a lesson for everybody. And I am afraid in Latin America, this lesson is not being learned. So that worries me enormously. So I think it has to be done. It's not possible to say that cannot be done.